Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the C8 mid-engine Corvette and 5 options that are available for it that are going to make it amazing. Now, before we get started on this list, there is one thing I wanted to mention real quick that doesn't really fall into the options for the car, but also should be mentioned. I came across a thread on the mid-engine-corvette-forum.com that was called Lightweighting the C8. And there is actually a video that I'll play for you here in a second from GM talking about their drive to make lightweight cars. Basically making parts for the cars at a lighter weight in general. In this specific video, they go over how they made the rear seat belt assembly in a way that saved 40% weight, but was also 20% stronger. Now, as many of you are probably already aware of, a lot of parts nowadays for pretty much everything are being 3D printed. GM is no stranger to the process of 3D printing, and they have actually implemented some of the 3D printing in the designing and building of their cars. Now, what this does for any car enthusiast is allow them to make a lighter weight vehicle. I've been saying since the very beginning that the C8 needs to be lightweight. Now, there's a lot of reasons why lightweight car is good for performance and etc., but ultimately, this is the way they're going to do it. Now, of course, if this car comes out and it weighs 4,000 plus pounds, but has that 1,000 horsepower motor, then of course it is still going to be a performer, but there are certain aspects of the car that will be held back in performance whenever it weighs that much. So with a video like this, I have faith that GM is really pushing the envelope as far as making this car lightweight, but at the same time strong. Now again, one of my previous videos talked about how the frame was twisting and possibly shattering rear glass based on the power that the car was putting down. While that is definitely interesting, I have a real good feeling, especially after watching this video, that what they were ultimately doing is pushing the envelope as far as they possibly could to see exactly where that frame would fail. But anyway, I'm going to stop rambling on. I'm going to play the video here for you guys. Let me know what you think.
There's many different ways to design for additive manufacturing, or maybe more commonly known as 3D printing. One of those ways is generative design. It really takes inputs of design constraints, load requirements, keep out zones where material can't be, and it generates thousands of different design solutions working with the software that maybe a single designer engineer couldn't come up with on their own. It's an expansion of our current capabilities, really focused on how are we going into the future with lightweighting, with new manufacturing process, thinking about designing and making our vehicles in a different way. Autodesk is one of our valued partners that we see as we go forward in the additive manufacturing space, really helping us from a thinking differently, the innovation culture that they can bring to us, as well as some of the tools that they have for design for additive manufacturing. One of the first parts we worked on in collaboration with Autodesk was a common rear seat bracket. This bracket consists of 8 pieces, welded together, bolted together. We worked very hard to consolidate that part into one piece, something that can only be produced using additive manufacturing. We ended up saving 40% mass, and again, got that part consolidation from 8 parts down to 1.
The benefit is really to be able to explore the design space in a much more efficient way than you can using a traditional approach.
We get multiple designs within a short amount of time, which is a feasible solution to our problem, which would probably take a normal engineer weeks to figure that out.
GM has traditionally always been a leading innovator in the industry, and it's great to see them adopting these new technologies and seeing how it applies to their business and to their customers.
We feel that there's huge benefits today, but then those benefits can really ramp up as we move into the future. Really, the opportunities for GM around additive manufacturing are endless.
So for those of you who didn't see my previous video about the leak of options for the C8 Corvette, go ahead and check that out. I'll link it up at the top right of this video. But ultimately, what we're going to discuss today is 5 of those options that are really going to put this car over the edge. Now, the list of options that was leaked was actually quite impressive. There was a lot of options on that list that really tell me this car is going to be something special. Picking only 5 was kind of tough, but honestly, the 5 we're going to go over today are really going to put this car into the supercar territory, as well as breaking it into the next era of technology available for vehicles. Now, of course, there's no battery option for this car, at least not yet. So the technology for the car is not going to go that far. But it is nice to see the technology in the Corvette getting a little bit of a bump. All right, so getting right into the list, the number 1 option available for this car that is going to really put it over the edge and really make it just fantastic is, of course, the front end lift. I've mentioned this a couple different times. Even after my first time driving a Lamborghini that had a front end lift, it was still one of my favorite options. Something so subtle, yet so useful is just absolutely great to have on a car that is more on the expensive side. Of course, we don't know what the price of this car is going to be yet, but honestly, even if it is priced very similar to the C7, it's not exactly what I would call a quote-unquote cheap car. And option number 2 is going to be the full HD in-dash display. Now, this is something that's really just GM keeping up with the times, but it is still awesome to see that we're getting an upgrade in a Corvette. The C7 has just a standard display in the car. It's only a 480p display. And of course, it's still very useful, and it's nice to have something like that. But at the same time, we're in 2019, soon to be 2020 with this car coming. We need something a little bit more modern. And of course, GM realized that. They throw at least a 720p display in the actual dash, which of course will be good for the HD backup camera, as well as a couple other things we'll touch on here in a second. What this is ultimately going to do is make everything in the display a lot more crisp, a lot clearer, and a lot more easy to see. Now, while getting the full HD display is great, another thing that goes right alongside it is the size of the display. In the C7 Corvette, we have an 8-inch in-dash display. This one is set to be a 12-inch in-dash display. Obviously, 4 inches bigger, and that's great considering the extra resolution is also going to add a lot of screen real estate on top of the 12-inch versus the 8-inch display, which tells me we're probably going to have a lot of programmable aspects to it, allowing you to customize what is visible and when it's visible. Option number 3 is going to go very closely with option number 2, and that is the HD backup camera. You never realize how useful that backup camera is until you don't have it. And the idea of having an HD backup camera is something that I've wanted for a long time, and I've wondered for a while why other manufacturers haven't done this already. We have full HD cameras in our cell phones that are the size of a pea. Why can't the backup camera on a car put out an HD signal? Now, there is a lot that goes into it, of course. The biggest one is the in-dash display has to be HD to really fully utilize the HD backup camera. Now, there's a lot of cost involved in this, that, and the other, but of course, I see a lot of car makers doing it today. So I'm glad to see GM jumping on that bandwagon and getting it done with the C8 because it's definitely something that's going to be necessary. The Corvette in general doesn't have the best visibility when you're in the driver's seat, so having a full HD backup camera is definitely a good thing. Option number 4 is going to be interior color choices and options. So the biggest one that comes to mind is the actual seatbelt colors. Currently in the C7 generation Corvette, you have the option of black seatbelts or just recently introduced red seatbelts. The C8 Corvette seems to have this problem solved by offering us right off the bat the normal black seatbelt, red, yellow, gray, tan, and blue. So just for the seatbelts, those are the colors we're going to get right off the bat. Now, another interesting piece that goes with that interior option is the actual interior color. So with the actual seatbelts that will be offered in different colors, you'll get your interior as well. You're going to get jet black, which is obviously offered in the C7 as well. Adrenaline red, which is also in the C7. We're also going to get a Morello red, which from what I can tell in pictures is just a darker red, more of a burgundy. Something called Twilight Blue, which sounds like it might be similar to Tension Blue, which would also match that blue seatbelt that we're going to have. A Sky Cool Gray, and Natural. Now, the Sky Cool Gray is rumored to be the interior color in the leaked interior photos, which looked more of a white to me. But on the mid-engine Corvette forum.com, they are talking about this, and some people are saying the Sky Cool Gray is that color we saw in the leaked photos. The natural color that's listed is believed to be something like the Kalahari interior on the C7, but of course, there's no way to know for sure if it's going to be the same color, lighter or darker than what we currently have in the C7. There's a lot of options here for the interior, which is great. I'm always preaching about how when car companies offer options, we all win. And in this case, that many different options, there is going to be a lot of color combinations available, and that's great for the end user. You can get exactly what you want. Now, number 5, of course, is going to be the powertrain. The 6.2 liter LT2 that's listed on the option sheet is likely to be a reworked, naturally aspirated V8. There's rumors that this engine will put down over 500 horsepower, which is by itself amazing. One of the reasons the LS7 was so popular was because of being a naturally aspirated V8 that was able to hit over 500 horsepower. With the advancements in technology, we're looking at being able to do the same thing with this engine, maybe even a little bit more horsepower without the use of turbos or a supercharger. That by itself is an amazing feat, but we're also going to add in a 8-speed dual clutch transmission. I am obviously a huge fan of manual transmissions, but if you have to go with an automatic, why not make it a dual clutch transmission? That paired with a 500 plus horsepower engine is going to make this thing a beast. Especially if GM can bring that out and have that thing weigh less than 3,200 pounds, that is going to fly around the track. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. If you liked what you saw, give me a big thumbs up. If you have any questions, of course, shoot them in the comments section down below. I'm always glad to answer anything C8 related. Let me know what you guys thought about this list, and go ahead and subscribe if you haven't yet. I'll catch you guys in the next one.